Hey, world. So it is Monday. I don't even know what the date is. I have no clue at this point. I think April 1st is this week. Not sure. Um, so it's Monday, and this is another episode of the KEW Exchange. And today's guest is Reggie Waterman. He is running a few minutes late, so no big deal. So I wanted to talk about, we're going to be talking about the power of intuition today. Reggie's a good friend of mine. We have many deep conversations, many light conversations. And we talk about our intuition all the time, right? And our intuition is so powerful, and it's something that we need to lean into. I'm saying a lot of ands today. It's something that we need to lean into. And it's not the most comfortable thing to do because it puts us in circumstances and situations where we question ourselves at times, and those people around us question us at times. It's a natural instinct that I think everybody has, is their intuition. But because of society, culture, environmental, circumstantial, we are raised to believe that it's not true, right? We are raised to believe that, physical, tangible evidence is the only fact. The reality is, for me, my intuition is extremely high. My intuition guides me on a daily basis, and I need to acknowledge that, and I need to live into that, and I need to follow my intuition no matter what it says. I am a firm believer that my internal compass, internal guide, living into my core values, being transparent, being honest, unconditional love, understanding, those things, perpetual growth, have really taught me to truly follow my intuition on every level. Reggie just got here, so he's going to jump in with us. Hey, Reggie.
What's up, Michael? I mean,
What?
Professor X.
Yeah, right. What's going on, bud?
No, sorry I'm late, man. Sorry I'm tardy for the party.
Hey, you know what? You got a day job, man. It happens.
Yeah.
I'm not cursed with them. One of them today, at least not a conventional one. So I want to talk about intuition, and I want to talk about the power of intuition, right? Because that was like our first conversation. Like I just hit you between the eyes and just kind of just do what I do and just like backed off a little bit, right? So describe intuition to you, because I was going on a little rant about what intuition is to me. So
Yeah, intuition to me is that small little voice that's just giving you directions and telling you to do XYZ, to do something or don't do something, to start, to stop. It's I would say it's your spiritual being just having a conversation with yourself, and it's paying attention to the vibes that are around you, right? And when I say vibes, I'm talking about people, I'm talking about
right.
things, I'm talking about energy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and your intuition will be able to pick up on all these vibes. Now, for someone like myself, I'm very stubborn sometimes. I could be. And I would say majority of my life didn't follow my intuition. And it's not only until I would say this year where I started to really and truly hone in on it, and let that be my guide. And it's funny because like just talking with you, and we always like to riff on this conversation about intuition, which I'm glad we're having this conversation for, so that everybody could tune in and understand what it really means. And I want to say this, that intuition really is defined by the individual, right? Even though I gave a definition of it, that's what it means to me. And
Right.
I know you gave your definition of it. But when you really listen to that inner voice, you'll be amazed at what that could do for your life. Meaning, if you're to either stay or leave a relationship, your intuition will tell you. To network with a particular individual or individuals, they will tell you. To do business with particular people and individuals, your intuition will tell you what to do. So there's so much more to it. But yeah, that's my definition.
So it's funny, right? Like it's turned me into a human lie detector because I feel when the vibe's off, right? I feel when the energy shifts, and I feel when there's something different. I feel when there's some type of shift in where it normally is, right? And for me, I've really relied on my intuition now, for the last 6 months, hardcore. And I do question it at times, but never like I used to. And over the last, I would say, these last 2 weeks, this new healing journey that I'm on, this when I'm going deeper and really infusing my whole life with love and going back and healing my childhood and everything that I've been through, it's really leveled my intuition up. It's put me to a different level to where it's almost uncomfortable because there's not much or many situations that I can walk into that I just don't know something. And it's kind of ironic and strange, and it really is uncomfortable sometimes. And who knows if this is really streaming on LinkedIn with all the LinkedIn issues, right? So we don't know if it's even streaming there. I think your dog's in the background, Reggie, which is why you're on mute now.
Yeah, and and I'm trying to spare you and your audience from the howling that's happening with the dogs.
Good. It's all good. COVID's got this. He's good. He's good. But yeah, I mean, so as you're stepping into it in these last couple of months, how do you see things changing in you?
You know what? I was actually going to riff on the whole fact that you talked about it feels a little uncomfortable.
Okay.
And so to answer, so that will help answer my question, or answer your question, I should say. So that feeling of being uncomfortable, I've now been able to tap into it, just like you, Michael. And sometimes the reason why it makes me uncomfortable, and I'll dive a little bit deeper, is because sometimes I'm like, am I judging this person? If I if I just met this person for the first time, am I judging this person now? And I don't want to come across judgy, but it's just my intuition screaming to me that it's doing that like RoboCop scan. Right? And now I'm able to kind of evaluate whether or not this person has either good intentions or just the intentions are not even clear. They don't even know why they're approaching me with whatever they want. Right? Because there's this level of programming, and we've all gone through it in terms of how we approach people, whether it be through networking or whether it be through business. But I think that uncomfortable feeling is part of our growth right now, because essentially it's a gift. Like I feel like you're super gifted because you, like you said, when we first met, and I call you Professor X because you know right away on this person's makeup, this person's DNA, what they're about. Are they a grounded individual? Have they found their purpose? Are they a light worker? Are they shining right now? Are they maybe in a bad spot? Right? Because we all fall into bad spots because it's part of life. But following my intuition now has shaped me in a manner where I could essentially I'll pick up on your vibe right away.
Yeah.
I'll be able to say, okay, is this person, I'll know whether or not you're ready to have like a specific conversation with me. Whether it is, I know, let's just say I met Sally, right? I'm just making up names because I don't really have too many Sallys in my circle. So met Sally for the first time. I could categorize her as somebody that's either going to be superficial or somebody that has substance. And based on based on my first impression, I'll know how to steer the conversation. So if Sally's superficial, let's put her in the superficial bucket and have a superficial conversation like, how man, the weather is crazy today, right? Like everyone talks about the weather, or we could talk about the news because that's what everybody talks about, right? But Sally, can I have that conversation about how you're really feeling?
Right.
Like instead of saying, how are you? Can I just ask you, are you happy? And will you be able to answer that question? Are you really happy? Let's go deeper.
You know what it's really taught me, and this is the funny part that I'm learning and evolving these last few months, is when to walk away from a topic. and reapproach it later. Because I'm not good at holding back. I'm very good at being blunt. I'm very good at, confronting people on their stuff. I'm very good at being that mirror for people. But what I've really learned over the last, what are we almost through this month? So almost 90 days now, is how to walk away in a gentle manner and reapproach something in a safer situation at a different time. And that is the biggest gift to me, right? Because I've always leaned into my intuition. And as long as there's not emotional entanglement there, then I'm fine. When there's emotional entanglement, it's a whole different story, right? Like my intuition just gets way out of whack. Probably partially because I was emotionally numb my whole life and all those fun things. But now that I know when to walk away, it saves a lot of that emotional entanglement, right? And it's not always that the judging thing is hysterical, right? Because I get accused of that almost daily. It's you're judging me. No, I'm really not. I'm just stating facts. Like these are just facts. Take it for what it is, or don't listen, or don't talk to me because I'm okay with that too. But don't be aggressive towards me because I'm bringing up something you don't want to talk about, right? So if you're okay with where you're at, then I'm okay with where you're at. Just don't bring it up. Like, I can't be lied to. I can't be, manipulated. I can't be games played with me anymore. And because I see straight through it, right? I just see it. And what I used to do was bury it and ignore it. Now I just handle it in a way that I just pull back and I just take a step back because I don't need that in my day. I don't need that in my life. I am willing to be there for people when they put in, I put in. When I'll do that all day long. But
I think what you're learning there is you're learning how to allocate that energy.
100%.
You recognize that you would go all in, because I think what people don't realize is when you tell them about themselves, you're stating the facts. As you mentioned, you're stating the truth, and nobody likes to hear the truth.
No, nobody wants to look at
there's
that.
And there's probably like so many times where you're just beating yourself on the head. You're like, just listen to me. But you have good intentions, but people don't realize that you're coming from an intentional perspective to deliver a message about themselves where they could actually leverage it and utilize it for the purpose of something that could be potentially awesome for them.
Yeah, 100%. And it's also about saving people pain, right? That's another big thing for me. I try to save people the pain, but what I've also learned recently is they need to take their own journey and go through their pain. Because by me taking away the pain is really hurting them more than helping them. Because it's masking what they're going through in a way that they don't think that there's real pain attached. Because I have ways of taking away pain, right? So I want to help people and I want to be there for people. And the ones that I care most about, our circle and the misfits and, all these people in my life who I care deeply for, I'm going to do whatever I can to take their pain away. But at the same time, that's part of their lesson. So I think the stepping back part is helping me to understand where and when to be my truest self and when not to be, or when to be a little bit more reserved with it. Because I'm always my true self, but when to be reserved and when to be all in is the real question.
Yeah, and I could totally relate to that because I used to be just like you, and I would like to tell people like, okay, dude, you just told me about your experience. It's like my intuition and my spirit is telling me for you to do XYZ. But then it's like, okay, well, to your point, like, who are you to tell me this? You don't really know the situation, blah, 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 blah. But listen, just like you, I'm trying to save you from your pain, man.
Right.
Right.
But what I've also learned now is people don't like sacrificing for themselves.
No.
People don't want to sacrifice part of now for a huge potential later, whether it's in personal, business, relationships, anything across the board.
But why would they?
Because that's the reality.
because we've all been conditioned, right? Like things,
Yeah, we've been programmed, I guess, right? We've been trained to believe that and see that and think that.
especially with
So
everything that's happening, like
yeah,
everything is instant gratification. I need this now. You know, it's funny that you mentioned this because, and I feel like although I love this conversation, it's like I'm just talking to you on the phone, and I feel
yeah,
like that's
it
what
is.
more
It is.
people need to like. When people come on lives, people just need to realize like this is just a FaceTime conversation.
That's it.
So the number 10. So when I say number 10, that number is always, I'm always getting flashes of 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. So when you talk about people want things now, whether it is they want their business to be successful, they want to be XYZ by, 2 months from now. The number 10 always comes to mind because my conditioning in terms of following my intuition is actually listening to the realities of things, listening to the fact that this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And the
Hmm.
10 represents what I gathered from a lot of successful people is that it takes almost up to 10 years for you to really find that position of success based on that one thing that you are focusing on and trying to accomplish. It's not going to
Hmm.
happen right away. Right? Like Steve Jobs, it didn't take Steve Jobs 1 year to freaking do what he did before he passed. You know what I mean? Before
No,
he
it,
introduced
it took
the
it
Mac.
took him.
You
I
know?
think it took him 10 years of failing. Actually, I think.
Right.
Like I mean, but you're right. That 10-year number and that 10, 10, 10. People don't want to put the time in. People don't want to get those big rewards. They want that instant gratification over the big reward.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm learning is on the spot daily, right? Through the healing stuff that I did this morning. And like I'm always doing something to work on myself. And um, hey, Cap. And I'm always, hey, Michael.
Michael, what's up?
Yeah, had a great
Michael's a
conversation
good
with him.
guy.
A couple great
Michael's a good guy.
conversations, actually. Um, and what I'm learning is I don't need to be around people that only want instant gratification because it doesn't feel right natural to me, and it goes against my intuition. My intuition is I'm going to spend the rest of my life building something, and my legacy goal is what it is, right? Like that's where I'm at. Like my
Mhm.
legacy goal is going to be everything. So what am I in a rush for? Like, what do I care how I get there between now and the next 42 years, 42 and a half-ish years, a little bit more. But what do I care about the in between? As long as I'm living in my core values, everything's going to fall in place, right? Like aligning with myself. The rest
Mhm.
of it doesn't matter. That's just expectations I set on me, others set on me, and self judgment, which I'm refusing to do now these days also. I'm letting that stuff go. It's not worth it to me. And it's crazy. It's so liberating and free and just an unbelievable feeling. It really is.
It absolutely is. Like I'll give you a prime example. Last week, um, I did a post about, you know, I was gonna do a lot. I did a live with Richard Moore last week, Thursday,
Mhm.
and in that same advertisement for that event, I said, "Yeah, well, we're gonna have this conversation at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then I'm gonna have a replay event at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to satisfy everybody else." But then I actually tapped into my intuition, so I was doing the two-part series because I felt that I always had to satisfy others, right?
Mhm.
But my intuition kicked in and said, and I told you this on WhatsApp. I was like, "Shh, pump your brakes.
Right.
Just chill tonight. You don't need
Yeah.
to do this."
Yeah.
And nobody's gonna question you. But because I've been so programmed, oh, what if I don't follow through on this? People are gonna say that Reggie said one thing, but he did something else. He's not true to his word. But
Right.
no, I got to be true to self. And at that point in time, my intuition is saying, like, dude, you're doing a bit much right now.
Right.
Like, just have this one evening to yourself, recharge the batteries, and you'll be that more effective later on. And I listened, and it was better.
Well, and that's why I'm also now at a point where actions are the only thing that matter. Words don't mean anything to me anymore. because it's easy to say words, but it's tough to live into them. So rather than paying attention to the words now, I need to see actions to back those words, or actions to just speak for you, right?
Yeah.
So people can say anything, and I used to live this way. I used to say all these great things and not live into it, right? But now I'm allowing my actions to speak words for me. Because
okay. So let's hold on. Let's talk about that real quick.
yeah,
Let me see if you're in the same space as me.
mm-hmm.
I love that. So actions speak louder than words.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, based on this intuition that we're talking about, everything that somebody says to me, I take it with a grain of salt. Is that a
Even
bad
less.
thing?
No, even less. I take it even less than that. To me,
And why is that? Why is that? Why are we there?
Because
I'll tell you why we're there, but you tell me.
Because intuitively, people just say things, right? Because they want to people please. They want to say hi. They want to be present, right? They don't want to lose something. They want to keep something around. So they're spewing words that they think people want to hear. But for me, what I've realized is, since I've seen it so many times now, and my intuition's always telling me against it, and I really want to believe in people, and I really want to see the best in them, which is where my conflict always came between my intuition and living my daily life, because I would question it because I really want to believe people. But now I'm allowing people's actions to speak their words, because to me, it's their actions that are their truth, right? Their actions prove everything, no matter what it is. Even my kids, like, I mean, I've even taken this approach with my 3-year-old now. Like, when she is saying different things, I don't pay attention. But when she gets up and does something, or gets up and walks to the fridge, like, she'll walk out here and she'll be like, I want food. And I'll be like, okay, what do you want? I don't know. Then she'll go back in the room. She'll come back out. She'll say it again. I don't know. Do the same thing 2 or 3 times. And I don't move. When she opens the fridge, I get up and say, what do you want? And then she has an idea. It's the same concept to me. I'm not going to waste my energy anymore. I have too many things that I'm taking care of to waste my energy. It's just not worth it.
It's all about conserving that energy to do something even more impactful.
It is.
That's what it's all about, man.
Our most valuable commodity is our energy source. And, I've talked about it so many times, but I'm done giving it away. I'm done giving it away for nothing. It's just not happening anymore. Like, I refuse to live that way anymore. It's just not working for me.
I think naturally. I think it's naturally because I find there's a lot of similarities with you and I. We like to fix things.
Yes.
And because we're fixers, we feel like we need to put our best foot forward to help somebody else. But we're trying to help people that don't really want to help themselves, if that makes sense to you.
100%. A million percent.
So we get caught up in that cycle.
Mm-hmm.
But now we need to shift our gears.
Yeah.
Because if you think about your kids, like, you got 3 kids, right?
Yeah.
You're going through some stuff, just like everybody. Everyone goes through some stuff.
Yep.
But everybody that's going through stuff, are they able to do what you're doing? Like, you're having lives X amount of times per week. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on the back end that people don't realize the intricate details of executing a production like this on a day in, day out basis, right? So when you're talking about people saying things, like, talk is cheap, as the saying goes, right? I remember Gary Vee used to say, ideas are shit if you can't execute. And a lot of people don't know how to execute.
No.
They got these grandiose ideas, but they ain't willing to put in the work.
Yeah.
Nope. Majority of people do not want to put in the work. Bottom line.
Never. They never. And that, again, I think, is back to the words versus actions, right? Because the work is the action. The words are easy. It's easy to spit words out. It is really easy to tell people what you think they want to hear, and to be the people pleaser, and to try and keep those things going. And, like, it's easy to do that. But when push comes to shove, are you going to make that action? Are you going to do what it takes to make whatever it is come to fruition? And it is the exact same business, right? I mean, all those companies, they want to get funding day one because they wrote one sheet of paper with an idea. It's like, well, where's your grunt work? Where's your proof of concept? Where's, all these pieces of it that you're bringing together to show an investor that it is worth them getting behind because you believe in it so much, you put all this energy into it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think that's huge. And I think this is a big part of what's wrong in the world today, right? Like, if everybody just listened to Nike and just did it, the world would be different. Like, there wouldn't be the questions anymore, right? Like, so it would just be people would be doing things. How have you noticed that your intuition's changed your business mindset?
It's a good question. It's it keeps pushing me to do more. Um, what I mean by that, I'll get downloads of keep focusing on your mission, do what you need to do, whatever that is. Like, it's crazy. The series that I started last year, it'll be a year in April, and that series is Discover Your Other Self, DYOS, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was like, I'm a very spiritual person, and that was, I feel God was talking to me in that moment, but I didn't even know what I was going to do. Like, I remember coming down the stairs and getting that message, just connect with people, and I'm like, okay,
Okay.
all
Yeah,
right,
sure.
cool. Should I just reach out to? Should I reach out to Tim? Should I reach out to
Yeah.
Mike? Who should I reach out to? Let alone did I know that my intuition was guiding me the whole time in terms of how to execute.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a game plan, and then all of a sudden it turned into a series of Zoom sessions, and then branching off into like LinkedIn Live. But then all of a sudden, all these marketing ideas came into play, and then different shows and different branches,
Yep.
and that's just by tapping in. But just like you, and we've talked about this offline, I have my own struggles, right? Like, I got 2 kids, I don't get to see them, and I live 7 minutes away,
Right.
right? And I would love to see them. It's just not, it's out of my control. But if I fed all that energy and got so upset, my intuition would say, what are you doing? You have a mission to do right now.
Yeah.
Maybe God is saying, hey, we need to park. Like, I'll take care of the kids. The kids are going to be good. Get your mind right and focus on delivering this mission that could impact people that I want you to serve right now. Because if you deflected from that and you went towards your anger, you went towards your emotional state, then the people that you could service that could have like a worldwide impact, you're going to be doing a disservice to them. But again, I got your kids. Your kids they're good, they're healthy, and you're going to reconnect with these individuals that we brought this world together, and we're going to be in harmony one day. And that's what I
Right.
focus on.
So it's funny, like Michael's comment, start taking action and the how will unveil itself. I do believe that. I do believe when you take steps towards something, right? Especially if there's a divine purpose for it, that everything falls in place around it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I find this so funny with the timing of this conversation, which obviously was a reschedule, right? Because originally we were scheduled beginning of March, I think.
Yeah.
You had something come up. So it's really ironic that, now is when it's coming into play with everything that I've gone through in the past few weeks of this healing journey and really digging deeper. Because every day and every time I do more healing, I'm getting more connected to myself, and I'm getting more connected to my intuition, and I'm seeing my triggers of why I started disconnecting from it in the first place. Right. So having that understanding now is giving me this tremendous insight to why I should never turn my back on it again. And like, it's almost unrealistic or not believable, right? The power of intuition, because it really does guide me in every facet of my life. It guides me in every action I take, and the stepping back part has been so huge for me. Like, I can't even discuss how big the stepping back part is, because it's having the ultimate faith that it's going to be exactly as it needs to be, and releasing that from it.
But the stepping back part is like one of the hardest steps in
Oh,
the process.
oh my God, it's so difficult. It is like we want to be knee deep in it. We want to try and control it. We want to try and, maneuver it, and, taking that step back and just being like, okay, it's just not yet, right? It's just not time to work on it yet. So give me my energy back. I'm taking a step back, and I'll be back when it's a different time. And what I noticed is I've been doing that with my companies for years, and I never noticed that. My education company is at the same point it was before COVID, right? Everything was in pre-development. Everything is completely ready, fully packaged to go to investors. Everything is fully ready. It's intuitively not the right time yet, and I know that for a fact.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just sitting on it. I'm just waiting. The telehealth and the medical billing and coding, that's starting to move a direction. Intuitively, it's time for me to get more engaged. So I am, right? Like the CBD and the CBG, I took a step back because it just isn't the right time. I'm going to run my head into the wall. But I also
Mm-hmm.
know that I feel it in the next 30 to 60 days that it's going to start picking back up again, right? And I still have that. So it's all just like I didn't realize this is what I was doing. I had no clue. Like, like I didn't realize that there was a plan involved. But now that I'm where I am with my acute awareness of it, I see the plan. Have you ever
You
taken a
see it,
step
right?
back?
Yep.
Yeah. Like take that step back and be like, holy shit, this is pretty brilliant. Like, where did this come from? Like, did I do this? Because it didn't make sense at the time.
Well, that's the thing. It goes back to the whole, again, that number 10. Gee, I don't know if you can see it on my screen.
Yeah.
10.
Yeah.
Okay, there's one hand. There's a 5. There's another 5. Let's put them both together as 10. Think about what you've accomplished within 1 year. You look back, you rewind the tape, and you're like, "Wow, I accomplished that." Fast forward, think about what 2 years, 3 years, and so forth looks like, right?
Mm-hmm.
We'll be amazed at what happens when we tap into our intuition. And you said something earlier about, there's a reason why this whole conversation got pushed back.
Mm-hmm.
I'll bring it to you. Your energy level
Mm-hmm.
in your conversations on this platform that you've established. I don't even know if you had a chance to even go back and rewind your own tapes to look at your energy levels. But I'll tell you right now.
I don't think there's enough time in a day to watch all my episodes.
Well, what's up, Dorothy Ann? What's going on?
What's up?
Jairus, Cap.
Yes. Hey, Jeff.
Bill's in the house too. But I will say, sir, your energy levels have transformed. I think you were because you're coming into your own, you were fixated on what wasn't working, what was so wrong with your life, all of the past wounds.
Yeah.
Now look like you seem more relaxed. And I remember we talked on the phone the other day. I was like, "Yo, how are you doing, man?" He's like, or just going on WhatsApp. You're like, "Man, I'm great. I'm great. I'm great." Do you know how refreshing that is? Because, and I'll tell you this, and maybe this is where I'm at right now, but I've been getting a lot of messages from people saying they're anxious. They got so much anxiety. They're this and they're that, and this is not working, and that's not working. I get it. Like, there's ebbs and flows of life.
Right.
And we talked about this, but there's the high vibe. If you could get yourself into that high vibration, we'll focus on all that little stuff that you've been focusing on, the anxiety, man. You're not gonna be anxious. You'll be good. And this is what I'm seeing right here in front of my face right now. Like, the vibe that you're projecting is beautiful.
It's all shifted. It was the court date. It was the court date going against what I wanted. That day of utter, complete shutdown. Because when I left that courtroom, I felt so strangled, suffocated, trapped, and just like paralyzed. I was basically paralyzed, right? But whatever happened between that day and waking up the next morning, man, I woke up the next morning. I was like, I'm good. Like, I don't care. It doesn't matter. It's all good. And since then, I've been like this, that's how I've been. I have my moments, and we all do, right? Because we have processing and healing and other stuff that we do. But like, it's been this amazing, like, whatever level I jumped from the last one to this one is like, it's a different level. It's just like everything is different because I'm not interacting, reacting. I'm not doing the things I used to do because it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't.
But that comes from when you're tapping more so into your intuition, and then you're also detaching yourself from the outcomes, right? And
Yeah.
which we all get hung up on the outcomes. That's the problem.
Well,
Listen. I do it to myself too. I still do it to this day. But then I have to remind myself, yo, dude, relax, chill. It's not gonna be the end of the world. It's
for
fine.
me, it's the soul centered, right? Like how I'm describing things now is soul centered. People, I used to say heart centered. I used to say mind focused. And for me, soul centered is where I'm living today. Soul centered is living in my core values every day, under any circumstance, no matter what it is, good or bad, while also being so deeply connected that what comes through me isn't even my words. And that's where I'm at today. My intuition is running the ship. Like, I don't even pretend to get in the way anymore. Like, remember your episode with Mark? What was that, last week or the week before, where you had
Yeah, a
no
couple
sound?
weeks ago.
Huh?
A couple weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, and you had like no sound, and it was like this whole big thing. And I just call you on the phone. I'm like, Reggie, just go do this. It will work out. I promise. And it was uncomfortable, but it did. It worked, and it flowed, and you just got out of the way. And it's just, I don't
You
know.
you want to you want to know a joke about that?
Sure.
So just for your audience, so what Michael is he's articulating to you is a time when I did my live, and it's like everything and anything that could go wrong with a live
It
went
didn't go to
wrong.
LinkedIn. It didn't go to LinkedIn. And then
Yeah, it
it
didn't
was,
go to LinkedIn, didn't connect to LinkedIn for some reason. I had headsets on. Those like conked out on me. So I had no sound. And then I put these other headsets in. I got some sound, but then all of a sudden I couldn't hear Mark, who I was interviewing. And then Mike was like, yo, dude, he calls me. You gotta watch your own show on YouTube. So here I am watching my own show, just like everybody else on YouTube. But there's a 10, was it like a 10-second delay or
it
something
was
like
fun
that?
at the
There's a
10
delay.
seconds. But it was funny because as the time went by, your intuition kicked in, and it went from you were being delayed that 10 seconds at first to
Yeah.
5 minutes later, you were being delayed 5 seconds because you were picking it up. And then by the time it was the end of the show, there was no delay. You already knew what was coming next, and you were ready just to
Mhm.
go. And it was awesome.
So, but then here's the punchline for this joke. So just
Yeah,
before I came on live here with you,
your
I was
headphones were.
just delivering a presentation. And then at the end of it, they're like, yeah, great presentation. They're like, I don't know how you presented with the dogs howling in the back, because that dog's howling in the back.
Right.
And that moment that I went through with Mark, it was like that moment was building me up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a metaphor for everything that happens into our lives. Everything
100.
around us externally is all this noise, all this chatter. But if you could stay focused, you could really concentrate and deliver on the mission and objective that you are sought out to deliver on. So
It's okay. So it's like relationships, right? They're all lessons for the next one or the one after or whatever it is. And
yeah.
I find that, like it's the same as being a parent with kids, right? Because what I learned with my first daughter doesn't always work for my middle child, but sometimes works for my youngest. But what I learned from my middle child works from also sometimes works for my youngest. So it's like I'm building up this arsenal of knowledge to be able to handle by the time my youngest comes along. It's pretty much easy. Now, granted, having three kids by myself is never easy, but it's
Mhm.
easier because I have that knowledge base that I can go back to. And I always talk about also, when you have your first kid, you call the doctor for everything. Oh my God, they have a bump on their thigh. What happened? I want to take them in. And the doctor's like, send pics. And you send pics, and it's like, that's an ant bite. Leave them alone. But if you really think about it, that's what it's like being a new parent and not knowing, right? So by the time you get to the third, shit, my third, God knows what she could do before I take her to a hospital. She'd have to be really sick. At this point, it's just because I know they're going to be okay.
Uh-huh.
Right. And it happens in friendships, it happens in relationships, it happens in business, it happens in every aspect of life. Right. Like we get lessons along the way, and how we absorb them is how the next lessons come our way. and a lot of the reward from what I'm learning now is in the journey through it, and the self appreciation and the self worth that comes from it.
Mm-hmm.
How do you, when you're talking to people, not business wise, but like personal, and how do you explain that to them? Because I have trouble explaining that to people, because most people can't grasp that.
That just everything will just be okay, just like
Well,
leave it alone. Like,
the fact that the more they go through, the more they learn, the better thing that's coming down the line, right? And they need to be patient. They need to be patient with themselves, because a lot of these things aren't I'm not patient with you, it's I'm not patient with myself, right? Like, because it has nothing to do with you, it's that I'm not patient with myself. Just like, because of my intuition, I've learned that when people lie to me, it's because they're lying to themselves. They don't have intent to lie to me.
I think because at the end of the day, we're all control freaks.
Is that what it is? We all want some semblance of control in our lives, so we're trying to grasp onto
We
whatever
all want the control. We all want to know the outcomes of, if I go down this path, this is what's going to happen versus that path, right? So that's that control freak nature, and none of you could say no, you're not control freaks, because we're all control freaks to a certain degree, right? But I think it's, I'm learning this too. It's about surrendering to the outcome.
Yeah.
And when you come from a place of where you could actually surrender and detach yourself from that outcome, that's when you'll start to realize a lot of peace within yourself.
Yeah.
Right? You become a lot more happier. You be like, okay, well, whatever happens, happens. And if I think about, and it's funny when you talked about like the kids example, I always laugh at that. I laugh at today's parent. I'm a parent myself, and
Right.
I used to coach my son's soccer team or even go to my daughter's soccer games. And to your point, like some of the parents are just involved, and Billy falls on the ground and, oh my God, he's hurt. Oh my God, he's gonna, like, dude, the guy just fell. Like, relax. It happens in soccer. Do we not remember when we were kids? Is this what's happening? I feel like we forget that we were kids at one point in our life, and we survived. We had bumps and bruises, way more bumps and bruises than these kids today have, mind you.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%.
But how do you tell somebody just to like detach? You could only tell them. It's like trying to bring the horse to the water, right? So
Detaching is part of it, right? Detaching is only a piece. I'm still somewhere stuck at times on the pain, keeping people from their own pain, especially those closest to me. I want to help them so that they don't hurt themselves worse, or put themselves in a situation to hurt somebody else in a tremendously devastating way. Because at the end of the day, they're going to carry that forward, right? And I really get stuck there. Like, that's an issue for me, and I'm really trying to work through it. And I'm practicing on my kids, because obviously we never want our kids to go through pain. But they have to go through some pain, because that's how they learn, right? Because if not, then they're going to, never have responsibility for anything. And they're just going to keep living their life however they choose and expect to always be bailed out. And yes, I'm really bad.
And then the biggest piece to this, and it goes back to the main message and main topic of this conversation. Then we cheat them from utilizing one of the greatest gifts, which is their own intuition. So now we become their intuition? No.
Right.
No. Because we forget and we don't realize that each one of us is truly unique, and that intuition belongs to us, the individual. You can't, like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you could, Mike, you could deliberate and give me some messages based on your own experiences, and you could try to help me. But to your point, sometimes you got to let me learn to fail.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's part of it, right? It's this whole journey is pretty amazing. It really is. And, like, I used to be avid Gary V, right? Like, avid everything Gary V. Listened to every piece of content, consumed it all, every podcast, every episode. And what I realized is he says things that are so magical if you really listen to it, but he just doesn't have the depth on it because he really hasn't experienced a lot of it, right? He came from a different environment. He came from, not that he never had struggles, so don't get me wrong about that. He had struggles, but in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
But like, he's very harsh. He's got that New Jersey mentality, right? So many people can't handle that because he's blunt. Obviously, I'm okay handling that because it's pretty much how I am. Um, but it's like his messages are so spot on, but they're so direct that most people don't even realize it, right? Like they're just, he keeps it really simple. Like he'll post 3 words, and if you really break it down, it's this massive, massive eye-opening, brain and heart and soul-opening experience. But he leaves it at 3 words so that whoever can receive it receives it the best way they can.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really amazing. It really is amazing. I've never seen anybody articulate things like that or be able to break things down that way. I'm not that concise, not even close. If I was,
No,
I'd have
I love.
instead of an hour.
No, I love Gary Vee too, man. Like, you know, everything is like be kind. Kindness is cool. You know, just everything. It's about keeping things simple. He talks about the macro versus the micro, and how a lot of us focus too much on the micro versus the macro.
Yeah.
And it's just about being yourself and
Well,
putting yourself out there.
but
Right?
that's the gratification thing, isn't it? Like
Oh,
the
he talks
mac.
about that too. He goes, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, right? He promotes that day in, day out.
I think the instant gratification, the not trusting your own intuition, the not, you know, saying words with no actions, or those types of things, it's such a default, right? Because I lived there for years, but now that I'm on the other side of this and I look back and it's like, holy shit, like, what did I do? Like, I understand what I've done now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it makes sense. And then you try to save other people from it and it just doesn't work. They need to go through their process and go through their journey, and whatever that is, that's what they need to do.
And that's the path that they're supposed to go on.
Yeah, and that's a hard one. That's a hard one to swallow for me, someone like me.
Like, you know, in my prayers and stuff like that, I always say, God, like, leverage me as that vehicle to deliver a message to somebody.
Yeah.
And that's just it. We're just vehicles and a conduit to deliver a message to somebody. And it's up to them, with that person, whether or not they want to receive it or not. A lot of people are just closed off to it because, to your point, sometimes when I talk to people, especially in meetings, they feel like I'm coming across too aggressive or too harsh. And I'm like, no, I'm just telling you the God honest truth. I don't want to sugarcoat anything like that, because if we're sugarcoating everything, I'm just wasting your time, wasting my time.
We're wasting time, energy.
I'm all about efficiency.
Yeah.
Right? There's an income to effort ratio that people don't realize that is is a real thing. The amount of time I'm gonna put into you, there's got to be a certain return on it, right? Return in the fact,
100%.
in the fact that you've received it and you're going to apply it to better yourself.
It truly is amazing, though. It's amazing. It's what I find amazing is seeing the difference in you in the last few months, looking at the difference in me in the last year, right? Like, it's just mind blowing to me. Like, I don't even feel like the same person. You're acting like a completely different person, because your focus went from here to here and head down, and now you just go, and that's it. Like, you're just going. There's nothing that's going to get in your way right now, because you're just in that flow state where everything is just going for you.
Well, it's funny because when you and I first spoke, and you're like, man, you have so much to offer, and you're telling me these things that I didn't realize about myself, or because sometimes I'll be very modest and I don't like to talk about myself a lot.
Right.
So the thing is, the concept comes in the form of, a lot of people will see things in you that you don't even realize in yourself, but they are actually a means to draw those qualities out in you. So when you talk about me being different than what I was a few months ago, yeah, I am, and I want to thank you for drawing that out. Another portion of that too is the external is not impacting my internal. So I'm hearing conversations from people, various people, about this person didn't like my post, this person didn't engage on my post, this person tagged me, this person did this person did that. I'm like, guys,
Who cares?
is this what we're worried about?
Right,
Mike,
right,
you didn't come on my freaking show the other day. You freaking
right.
bastard. You're a
I'm
freaking bastard for not coming
we were
on my freaking
we were
show,
talking about that
Mike.
on Saturday, weren't
I'm
we? Was
so
it
pissed
Saturday?
at you.
Yeah, yeah.
Mike, you
It's
have remember we talked about this the other day. You have a
yeah,
freaking life.
Saturday.
I don't care. I don't care if you didn't come. Like, yeah, like
Right,
I care about what you're doing. I respect you
right.
enough that you have 3 kids. You got a life out of your 3 kids. You're trying to live, do whatever. Why are we getting so hung up on shit that doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things? Why, people? Why? Tell me why. And it's only because we haven't discovered what our true calling and our purpose is. Because if we did, those factors wouldn't even matter.
Not at all. Not at all. And see, here's the thing though. Like, if you really needed me somewhere, you'd call me and ask me. You know, like if you really need me, and I'll be there, right? I'll make sure that I dedicate time and energy towards that. I have to be very intentional where my time and energy goes because the last 10 days I had my kids home 24/7. I did God knows how many lives, way too many, and like I have to be careful where my energy gets allocated. And that's why when people use words with no follow through and they want my time and energy in return, it really screws with me. And it pisses me off because my intuition knew better. But again, I wanted to believe the words. And it's very difficult at times to disseminate the difference, to discern, right? Who's in it for what reason.
Who's in it for what reason? Is
Yeah.
that Robbie Maury?
Yep. You got Michelle Bacham.
Robbie Maury, what's up? What's happening?
I haven't spoken
Man,
to him. I just connected with him. I haven't spoken to him.
your intuition will tell you everything. It will tell
I
you,
know.
again, the biggest thing is about who to allocate energy towards. Do I allocate energy towards Samantha, Stacy, Michael, Colin? Right? You'll know. Man, I used to say to a lot of people, and remember, I just started to tap into this intuition thing, like really tap into it this year. I've always
Yeah.
known it's there, and then the voices were hitting me, but now it's like they're screaming at me. So I could pretty much say to myself and do things that I normally wouldn't do, like say no.
Yep.
Sorry, no, I don't have time for that right now.
Yeah.
Right? And before I would always try to please people. Sorry. Not
I'm
sorry.
still, I got to say, I'm still kind of doing that in certain ways. I really am. And that's my next step, I think, is I'm now living in my core values. I'm now standing into them daily in every conversation, every action I take. I'm now constantly putting action before words. Now, what I need to do is be more protective of my own time. Because the reality is, if the intent isn't there, I'm not putting my energy anymore. And it's really solved a lot of my issues. Like realizing this through this conversation has solved a lot of my issues.
Okay, so here's one for you.
Yeah.
What I was struggling with before too was those energy suckers. People
Mm-hmm.
will reach out to you because it's like you got this energy. There's something about you. I want to
Yeah.
know. I want to know. I want to know. I want to know. What is
Let's
it
talk
about
every day for 6 hours.
you? Right? And it's like, okay, I want to take this energy because I don't have this energy, and I want to know where it comes from, without them asking you that question, mind you, right? And you start to recognize it now, and you're like, and you give them these ideas, and like, oh my god, I never thought about that. And it's like you just use me just for an idea.
Yeah. Not
And
that
then
they're
I
going
won't
to do
hear
it.
from and then I won't. And the thing, yeah, they won't implement it.
No,
They
they
won't
won't even.
implement it.
They won't even do it unless you're holding their hand, and it's so horrible. It's so funny.
But listen, at the end of the day, we're all on different paths, and I think that's the message that we want to leave with everybody is, when you follow your intuition, it will put you onto a certain path. But
Yeah.
it's like a muscle. It really is. You just gotta build it, keep building on it, leveraging it, and feeding it,
Yeah.
listening to it.
Yeah. And actually acting on it, right?
Yeah.
Because wasting your intuition is like this enormous self-sacrificing thing. If you think that breaking habits and addictions and everything else that I've been through in my life was hard, try living with yourself when you're ignoring your intuition. Like, because when you start going against yourself, you tear yourself down to shit. And it's
Well,
just not
yeah.
worth it. It's just not worth it. It's just not. So, and everybody else, learn about the difference between need and want, because that's another big one. That could be a whole show on its own. The difference between I need you or I want you. There's a big difference there. I need something, I want something. I need the newest pair of shoes. Or really, or do you just want them because you have shoes from a month ago on? Like, really understand the difference between need and want, because it can save you in major, major ways in your life.
Yeah, like why do you need the new pair of shoes?
Right,
Why do you want XYZ?
right. But that's a big difference in life, need and want. And I don't think enough people pay attention to it because we grew up in the age of consumerism, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we grew up in an age where I have to have the newest thing. I have to have the newest this. I have to buy this. I have to do this, or I don't fit in. You know, at the end of the day,
And it's funny you spoke about like relationships, and it's what I've been seeing through this whole pandemic is a bunch of people that they need and or want to be in a relationship, and then you have the people that are in relationships and they don't want to be in this relationship
right, right.
anymore because the pandemic has exposed what the relationship actually is. So what is it, people? What do we want? What we need, right? And let's just be honest about it.
I think we need to work on ourselves to really understand what our real wants are. I think what I wanted a year ago, or what I thought I needed a year ago, is nowhere near the same thing as what I think today because of all the work I've done. And it's definitely taught me the difference between want and need. And now that I truly embracing my intuition, um, I actually don't want or need anything, and my
Mm-hmm.
intuition just guides where I'm going with that, because it tells me when I need something, when I want something, it tells me, it really just sets up the whole path for me. I don't have to do it. All I have to do is live into it.
Mm-hmm. That's
And
true.
and
And I think a lot of what people want and what they need is just based off of other people's influences.
a hundred
Not
percent
nothing. It has nothing to do with what they really and truly want
right.
or need.
Yeah, and it's tough. It's strengthened my relationship with my husband. 100%. 100%. You definitely learn
Shout
who
out
your
to
real.
Dorothy Ann's husband.
That's a great
Shout
one,
out to your
Dorothy.
husband. Shout out to your hubby.
What did Robert
Dorothy
say?
Ann, buy him a really big cheeseburger. Your
There you go.
husband, he hasn't told you this yet, but he really wants a big juicy cheeseburger. All right, Robert Murray, what do you got? That is the link. The common factor is everyone wants to be authentic to themselves, and LinkedIn has given people the chance to be who they really aspire to be. That is true. Is it
So
LinkedIn though? Is it LinkedIn though, Robert?
I think the lack of physical connection has increased the desire for virtual connection, which ironically people made mistakes and walked into landmine and ended up being too vulnerable, because then it opened up the depth of relationships that they weren't ready for. That's my personal opinion. But what do I know?
No, I agree. I agree with you, Rob. I agree with that statement. Like, when you think about LinkedIn for a minute, it is a pipeline to discovery. Discovery
Yeah.
about you discover new friends, you know, new connections. You could discover yourself because you're gonna put yourself out there in terms of the content that you put out there. Um, but there's still a lot of us, and I would say many of us are still wearing masks to this day based on what we put out there.
LinkedIn is my only one, Robert. I know it's your number one, but it's really my only one. I don't pay attention to the other ones. I have accounts, but I don't really notice them. And LinkedIn, yes, there are lots of people still wearing masks, um, and the sad part is about that though. I really find LinkedIn to be the most genuine one, right? Because it's a business atmosphere. So if you want to make it in the professional world, you can't go around just spouting lies, taking pictures in front of yachts and rich cars, and then go to your boss and say, "Hey, I need $1 raise," right? Like you can't do those things. So
Mhm.
LinkedIn to me is the most genuine, real, authentic one. But yes, there is still a ton of
What?
masks.
I want to debate this. I think Instagram is. Instagram, you could be your realest self. I'm being sarcastic. I'm being very sarcastic. No, it's not
I
at
hate
all.
it.
It's like
I
I
hate
hate
it.
Instagram, man, for that.
I
I
hate it.
hate it.
I
But
hate
I
Facebook.
agree with both you and Rob on that front where LinkedIn allows you to be your authentic self because to your point, it is supposed to be a business environment, right?
And it's the first one that an employer is going to go to.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
true.
that's to me, I think that's the forcing factor, right? Fear that it's going to impact their income because then they can't go buy the next new pair of shoes. All right, guys,
Oh
it's time to
man.
go. If we don't end this,
All
we'll
right,
go on
man.
an hour.
Thank you
So
for your time.
thank you,
And for
everybody. I appreciate you, and have a
Rob,
good day.
Dorothy Ann, get your husband that cheeseburger. He
Seriously,
may
and
not say it, but I'm saying it for him. That's what my intuition is saying. Doesn't matter what your intuition says. It matters about what your husband and my intuition says. We'll leave you with that.
all right, guys, have a great day.
All right. See you.
And broadcast.